couple of years ago, we made a video with 4 tips to make your digital photos look a little bit more like film. And in this video, we've got 4 more techniques for you to try. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring it. Now, since we'll inevitably get the comment, just shoot film, I think it's worth reminding a few people that 1, shooting film is expensive, and 2, some projects just have to be shot on digital, whether it's the turnaround time, resolution, cost, whatever. So if you're shooting digital, but still want to emulate the look of film, here's how you can do it. One of the top comments in our last video on editing digital photos to look like film asked if we could show editing portraits and matching skin tone to that of film. Well, let's do that. In the bottom left here, we have this RA icon, which is reference view. On the left, we have a Fuji Pro 400H film photo, and on the right, we have a raw digital photo shot on Sony. Let's try and match the skin tone of the film photo. First, I want to pull the exposure up to better match our reference. Next, let's look at white balance. The film photo has a lot more blue and magenta, so let's cool down the digital photo and pull the tint towards magenta. Now, I'm seeing a little touch of green in the shadows of the film photo, so I'll head down to calibration and bring the shadows tint over towards the greens. Finally, I'll head to the color mixer and give the oranges a little saturation push and bring them a little closer to the reds in the hue section. As far as the skin tone is concerned, I think this is starting to match really nicely. Just slap some grain on it and call it film. Just for fun, let's do the same thing, but with a digital raw photo from a Canon camera. I'll just paste the adjustments from the Sony photo and then tweak the white balance. And maybe pull back the oranges a bit in the color mixer. Now you could obviously spend forever going back and forth tweaking things, but with just a few adjustments, you're already at 90% of the way there. All right, I want to show a dramatic example of trying to match the color of a CineStill 800T film photo versus a raw digital photo from a Canon camera. In this shot, the film photo looks really cool. Dramatic colors on the asphalt, nice halation hits on the lights, whereas the digital photo looks a little plain. Let's start by cooling down the temperature of the digital photo and bring the tint toward green. Now let's go down to calibration. Making adjustments in the calibration section affects the RGB value of every single pixel in your image, which makes it a really powerful and useful tool. Now to give you an idea of what it's doing, let's look at this image of red, green, and blue. Adjusting the blue primary hue to 100 changes the blue to purple and dulls the red and green. Adjusting the green primary hue to 100 makes the green look more wintergreen, and cranking the red primary hue to 100 makes both red and green look more terrible. But ideally, you can start to see what can happen to your colors when you start to blend different calibration settings together. So back to our photo, I'll start by punching up the saturation on the blue primary a lot, and bring up the hue along with it. Now in green primary, both the hue and saturation will get a lift. In the reds, the hue will get a bump, but I'll bring the saturation down to -15. And now green tint to the shadows. All right, this is looking good. I would just want to punch up the blues a bit in the color mixer to get it to match the film photo a little better. And now for some final tweaks. Now, the halation isn't easy to replicate in Lightroom, but I created an action in Photoshop that can simulate it. So here is the final shot. Okay, so you're probably thinking, great, but I don't have a film photo to match my digital photo to, so how is this helpful, dummy? First of all, don't call me dummy. Second of all, the more you study how film captures color and light, the more you'll be able to influence your digital edits to look more like film. Using this photo as an example, I'll use similar settings down in calibration to get an interesting look. Then a little bump to highlights and shadows, lower the whites, and lower dehaze. Slap on some grain, add some halation, and I think this looks really good. So you can see how I used film to inspire the look of my digital edit without having a shot-for-shot match. One thing we really like about the look of film is how it rolls off the highlights of your image. Take this shot for example. The right is the digital file and the left is CineStill film. In an area where we get clipped highlights in the digital photo, like these LED lights for example, you can see based off the RGB values that this is pure white, hundreds across the board. But over in this film scan, the RGB values cap out at around 98, so not true white. So to emulate this with our digital file, we can start by lowering the highlights. If we bring them all the way to -100, you can see the RGB value is in the 89 range. -75 is a little closer to the tonal range of the highlights on film. But another thing you can consider trying is bringing the white point down on your tone curve. First, create a point 3/4 of the way up, then grab the white point and bring it down a touch. While subtle, this is something that I do in a lot of my edits, and I think it really helps smooth out the upper end of the tonal range. Another element we notice in film photography is an overall softness to the image. Even in a tack sharp medium format photo, you don't really have the same kind of hard lines you get in digital photography. Kind of reminds me how audiophiles describe vinyl records as sounding warmer than digital. To me, this is the photo equivalent of that. So to emulate this with digital, let's head back to Stater Bros. On the left is a film photo shot on Kodak Gold, and the right is a Canon digital photo. I'm gonna slap on our Kodak Gold alt preset from our film emulation collection because, well, now seems like the perfect time for a shameless plug. Now let's zoom in on this sign here. One way to soften the digital photo is by lowering the sharpness. We can start by lowering the sharpness to 0 in the detail section, but that's not enough. I want to create a mask of the background, and I now have the option to lower the sharpness below 0. I think around -50 looks pretty good. Let's zoom out. Nice. If you want, you can soften the entire image, not just the background. Just open your masks, select the mask we just created, click Add, select Subject. Now the entirety of the image has that softness applied. We hope these tips help you get the edit you're after in Lightroom. If you want to check out our preset collections, including our film emulation collection, I'll put a link in the description of this video. Now, here's a word from Squarespace.
We've been Squarespace customers since 2013, way before this YouTube channel started. We currently pay for 4 Squarespace websites, and striptriviapod.com is one of them.
If you're not raking in money hand over fist with your podcast, you might want to check out Squarespace's new member areas, where you can sell access to gated content like video classes, digital downloads, or newsletters.
You can also showcase your photography with Squarespace's professional portfolio designs. Customize the layout, the look, and the feel to make it your own. Also, you can schedule and book appointments straight from your website. You need to log in that client meeting? Well, they can easily see your availability and reschedule if needed, making your life a heck of a lot easier.
Here's what our new podcast website looks like, and if you're in the market for a new website or domain, we'll save you 10% when you go to squarespace.com/mangostreet, or just click the link down in the description, or use the code MangoStreet at checkout. The options are virtually endless.
Sounds like there's just 3 options.
Okay, there's 3 options. Good?
Yeah, do something funny for the end.
I'm not a monkey, I just don't perform on command. What is black and white and red all over?
Zebra falling downstairs.
No, it's a nun falling downstairs. Or a zebra.
Definitely don't put that last one in.